To my brother's daughter, and I did not get a chance to introduce his youngest. This is Ashley.
Yeah.
Crystal wants to read a favorite quote of my brother's. I'm sorry, misquote. This was unscripted, so. This is a letter. Some of you folks may know this guy. My brother played with a guy named John Booth for many, many, many years. And John Booth is, kind of looks like John Wilkes Booth, actually. And I think they seriously were related. If you saw them, you'd know. But anyways, John Booth was my brother's lead guitar player for many, many years, and they were like brothers. John Booth is a wonderful guy. He now lives in Ohio. And he couldn't be here tonight, but he sent Crystal a letter, and he asked that she read it to you folks. So she's gonna give it her best shot. Please be patient with her, because this is a very tough time for all of us. And this is a really good thing for her to share with you. So appreciate it.
I have moral support.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start by thanking everyone for coming. I know it would mean a lot to him. Sorry. I apologize. Dad would have been grateful for you all being here. And I couldn't have done it without my sister, my uncle, my mother, my son, Julie, my boyfriend, Carlos. I appreciate you all. I wanted to say more, but I can't. I'm sorry. My name is John Booth, and I am writing from Columbus, Ohio. I'm very sorry that I cannot attend the celebration of life for my dear friend, Jean Pestana. So I send this message in my steed. I might say a few words and express both my sadness and my sympathy to his family. I didn't know this part, by the way. I met Jean in the early 80s. In an unusual way. I was drinking at a bar in Hayward called Shirl's, and talking to the bartender, I was explaining that I was a musician and that I was looking for other musicians to play with. The bartender knew of Gene and where his house was, and was just around the corner. I left the bar and found his house but no one was home. So I left my card. Poopy, don't do that. So I left my card on his door, and it only said John Booth, musician, along with my phone number. A couple days later, I got a call from a cautious yet affable fellow, and he asked me to meet him at the bar for a chat. Several beers later, and swapping stories and listening to the jukebox, we decided that he would give me a paid audition with his working band. That paid audition lasted for about 8 years, playing hundreds of gigs, and we grew to be very best friends. Gene could be a cantankerous sort, and so could I. So we often disagreed on pretty much everything except music. He was Raiders, I was 49ers. He was Oakland A's, I was San Francisco Giants. It became a running joke in the band that the two could disagree on so much, yet be such good friends and make such great music together. Admittedly, we were a difficult pair for our wives. Both wives saw us as bad influence on each other, but us, we just saw ourselves as great friends, living our life to the fullest. I watched his children grow, and he watched mine. Our two Crystals became best friends, as well to our delight. We camped together in Yosemite, took our kids to festivals, and mostly drank like heathens throughout our friendship. I can still hear him calling for a freshnet. If anyone knows that, then you knew him well. It was his way of saying he needed a drink. Gene was very opinionated, and I always got a kick out of working him up, especially over politics. It was like watching him paint a work of art as he defended his opinion. I even told him once that I voted for Obama, which I didn't, just to watch him go scooters. He always got his though. For example, I don't watch boxing, and he knew that. We were playing a gig and they were re-televising a previous fight, and he bet me $100 that one of the guys would beat the other. I, being half drunk, took the bet. He already knew because he'd seen the fight a month earlier. So naturally he won. He went home with my entire night's gig money. I found out a few days later that the fight was a rerun, and he just laughed and told me if I was that dumb, I didn't need the money, and that what I needed was B vitamins for my brain health. This was a very common example of Gene's thought process. But amazingly, no matter how angry one or both of us were, when we got onto the stage, we did everything we could to make each other sound their best. I recall a bathroom break. At one gig, standing in the urinal next to me, he randomly decided to change aim and piss all over my $300 snakeskin boots. I was mad as hell, but when he got back on stage and he started singing, it was impressive that I couldn't stay mad. Later, I asked him what the hell he did that for, and he said, because you played an F sharp in that song when it should have been an F sharp minor. Although I was still mad, I never played the wrong chord again in that song. This is what I came to know as Gene Think. And you had to stay ahead of him or you would go home in soggy boots. I would like now to send a thought to Gene's brother, Dave. I always thought Dave was a fine musician and that he would make a great addition to our band. But Gene wouldn't have it. I'll tell you what he further said, and then I'll translate this into Gene Think. For Dave's benefit. Gene said Dave was a show-off and gets all the attention. The translation is, and I know this for another rare and revealing discussion, Gene admired Dave's talent, especially his singing, and he didn't want to be upstaged by his little brother, but he admired him just the same. Insecure? Yes. Gene was softer inside than he would admit, most of the time. But he loved, admired, and respected his brother. He just didn't know how to show it without appearing soft, and soft he was, but rarely. And he never let it show. Not to me, not to Dave, not to anyone, especially another man. I'll tell you, if I close my eyes, I can still see him in his leather vest, Raiders t-shirt, and black boots. I can still hear his perfect bass lines holding the music up high. Holding the music up to a higher standard. And most of all, I can still hear his powerful yet silky and sensitive vocals as he sang a meaningful ballad. Lastly, I will tell you one of the most sensitive things. Sorry, I'm gonna struggle with this one, guys. Lastly, I will tell you one of the most sensitive things he ever said to me. He and Bonnie had just separated, and he was having a difficult time with it. He and I were working up a Michael Jackson song called She's Out of My Life. And as we were going through the chorus, which says, so I've learned that love's not possession, and I've learned that love won't wait. Now I've learned that love needs expression, but I've learned too late. He stopped the song and I could see the beginnings of tears in his eyes. He turned his face away and pretended he was adjusting his glasses, but I could see he was wiping away tears. Then he stood up and said, "I swear I think Michael Jackson wrote this fucking song for me." Then while adding a little bass to his voice, he said, "Let's go get a beer, we'll work on this fucker later." That, my friends, was my pal, Gene Pestana, in a nutshell. He was loved deeply, even if he couldn't bring himself to show it freely. He had a very special love for his mother, his daughters, and his brother, and I know he loved me as I loved him. Rest in eternal peace, my dear friend. The show has come to a close, but will be more to come because your spirit lives in each and every one of us, and we will never forget you, my friend. Love, your friend, John Booth.
I really didn't have anything planned to say, but I'm the youngest, and my dad and I had, a tumultuous relationship, just as he probably did with most of his closest friends and family. But I think he knew that I was always there for him no matter what. And the only thing that I regret is that I didn't force my love upon him like I should have, or I feel like I should have. I lost my mom in 2010, and my dad made a promise to me that he was going to stop smoking before I joined the Navy because he knew he couldn't stop me from going. And he just said that he wanted to be there for me. And so he quit, and he may be gone today, but still he made that promise and he kept it, and I never thought he would. And as annoying as he was, God, he was annoying. Pissing Eden off on purpose just because he liked to hear her scream. And I honestly wouldn't have had it any other way. I would give anything to have him back just to be an asshole again to everybody in this room. And I just feel like it's brought me and Crystal a lot closer. And I don't really have much to say other than we love you, you asshole. You farting asshole. Love you, Dad.
Well, those are, as Gene would have said, the fruit of his loins. He said that quite often, especially when Crystal would come up and sing a few songs with us. And, that was his endearing introduction to his daughter. And a lot of things that Crystal was reading off of that, that's the first time I ever heard that. But I knew John Booth very well. I've been in communication with him since my brother passed, and I know it's tough on him. John Booth was a man of many talents. He was an exceptional guitar player, and a very, very talented overall musician, and he was very humble about it. But he also had a pilot's license. He was a private pilot's license. And nothing scared my brother, or so he said. And if it did scare him, he would never let you know that he was scared. He never took an elevator. He would always walk the stairs. I don't care if it was 100 floors. He was going to walk those 100 floors. And I talked him into getting into an elevator one time with me because we were crunched for time. And I jumped around in it and made it shake back and forth. And I thought he was going to pee his pants because it was only him and I, so he could show the fear. But John talked him into taking an air flight with him one time. And it was just going to be a short flight from Hayward Air Terminal to Livermore. And they were going to have lunch over there and then just fly back to Hayward. So my brother said, okay, John, I'm going to trust you on this, but don't screw around, man, because, I don't like flying. And my brother hated flying. When Ashley went into the armed forces, which we should thank her. She served her country honorably, and she did very well. But when she graduated from boot camp, he asked me, he called me on the phone, and he said, Dave, I have a huge favor. He said, I know you hate flying. And I swear to you, I didn't know that he hated flying as much as I did, perhaps even more. But he said, I have a huge favor. Will you fly to Chicago with me and watch Ashley graduate from boot camp? I said, yeah, okay. So Julie made the arrangements and we flew. And I had to give him like 5 Valium before he could get on the airplane. And they separated us because in order for him to cope with the fear, he was poking fun at me and making it sound like I was fearful. He didn't have to because I was scared. So we made it to Chicago, we came back, but John Booth told me this story that he rented that plane and my brother got on the plane with him. And John, in mid-flight, he said, Gene, you ready for your first flying lesson? And Gene said, don't F around, John, because he knew what John was going to do. John let go of everything, and the plane went into a nosedive. And he said, Gene, you better take this or we're going down. And Gene was petrified. John had a really good time telling me this story. Gene was almost in tears. And long story short, they got to the air terminal in Livermore. They had lunch, but Gene had to drink like 10 shots and 10 beers. And he was going to take a cab home back to Hayward. Because he said, I'm not getting on that plane with you again. John said, I promise you I won't screw around. Let's just go. Well, they flew back, and obviously they got back alive and all was well. But Gene never got on a plane with John again. And the story about the peeing on the boots, Gene used to do that to me many, many times. And we were playing at the Palomino in San Leandro, and I was in the stall. And he walked in, and you could always tell it was Gene because he had this little tick. He would, Anybody that knows him recognizes that. And so he walked in, and that's the first thing you'd hear. And so I would hide. I didn't want him to know it was me in there because I knew something was coming. Well, he found a can of Comet, the cleanser, sitting on the sink. And he busted the top off of it. And he didn't even look. He just stood on the urinal and he dumped the whole can of Comet on my head. So all of those of you who see this gray hair, that's why. No, that's a true story. He did that. And I had to drive home because the Comet was all over my clothes and all over my jeans. You could hear him. He ran out of the bathroom cackling. And everybody said, what are you laughing at? And he said, wait till you see Dave come out of the bathroom. And it was funny. It wasn't funny then, but it's funny now. So thank you, Crystal and Ashley, for sharing those stories with us. And most importantly, that letter from John was like talking to John, having him here. John knew my brother better than most people. They were like brothers, and he was my brother, and I can't tell you how much I love him, miss him. And I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing this day with us.
All right. Thank you, Dave and Crystal, and Ashley. And once again, we'll have time throughout the afternoon if somebody has a story or a memory to share. We would love to have you come up and share it with us up here and with everybody. All right, we're going to get back to the jam session. We have Jim Shannon on stage with us now, another